Paul McCartney and John Lennon were the driving creative force behind the Beatles, with songs credited to their Lennon-McCartney partnership making up the vast majority of the band's catalogue. As agreed before they rose to fame, all of the songs the two wrote while in the band would be jointly credited, regardless of whether they were joint compositions or written independently. Paul and John's complementary yet stylistically distinct approaches resulted in an unparalleled album of music. Opposite poles generate electricity. Between John and Paul, the sparks flew, remarked Wilfred Mellors of Music and Musicians magazine about their collaboration in 1972. John's fiery iconoclasm was tempered by Paul's lyrical grace, while Paul's wide-eyed charm was toughened by John's resilience. Back when they were first starting out, John and Paul would often write songs side by side in the same room. Over the years, they would write separately before sharing their work and making final edits together, or sometimes they wouldn't collaborate at all. Arguments and conflicts became commonplace throughout the Beatles sessions in the 1960s, especially during the sessions for Let It Be and the White Album, when creative differences started to take center stage. By this stage, Paul and John often wrote songs separately before collaborating in the studio. John was very critical of Paul's work after he left the band, especially when it came to the projects that Paul spearheaded. Let It Be and the rest of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band from 1967 were total turns-offs for him. The Ballad of John and Yoko, a non-album single released in May 1969, was the one song on which the two artists appeared to have cooperated amicably during that time of animosity. While on his honeymoon in France, John composed the song, which celebrates his marriage to Yoko Ono. John didn't waste any time after his return to the UK. He rushed to Paul's London house and pleaded with him to immediately go to Abbey Road to record it. In his book entitled The Rough Guide to the Beatles, Chris wrote, "Despite their personal and business disagreements being at their height, McCartney agreed. One has to wonder whether Lennon would have offered McCartney the same support in a reverse situation. And with George out of the country and Ringo filming The Magic Christian, it was up to just John and Paul to make the music, the first Beatles session in 8 weeks. The band's artistic direction, Yoko's presence at studio recording sessions, the challenges of the Get Back sessions, and the hiring of Alan Klein as the new manager were among the numerous matters on which Paul and John disagreed at the time. On a song that had great personal significance for him, though, he was nevertheless eager to lend a hand to his bandmate. Paul knew that people were being nasty to John, and he just wanted to make it well for him, Yoko remarked after the fact on the tape. One of Paul's best qualities is his fraternal nature. Concerned about the controversy that might ensue from John's 1966 claim that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus, Paul had some reservations about the song. The Ballad of John and Yoko included several allusions to Christ, and in May of 1968, John had gathered the band for a meeting to proclaim that he was the living embodiment of Jesus. In spite of all that, on April 14th, Paul and John spent 7 hours writing the song. It is commonly accepted among music journalists that the laid-back vibe of that session carried over to the recording of Abbey Road later that year. However, it is debatable if they loved working together. John was in an impatient mood, so I was happy to help, Paul commented when asked about his involvement with the song's production. It has always amazed me how, with just the two of us on it, it managed to sound like the Beatles. The song is rather fantastic, actually. Session recordings from the Ballad of John and Yoko revealed that Paul and John were once again enjoying working together, according to Beatles researcher Mark Lewison. In his words, their great talent, humor, musical understanding, and togetherness shone through from start to finish. Yet, according to Mark Hertsgaard of The New Yorker, the recordings revealed a forced, polite quality to their joking, and none of the enthusiastic electricity heard during earlier Beatles sessions. He also stated, "They are coming apart and they know it." Until the release of Now and Then in 2023, this single remained the band's only UK #1 after its May 30, 1969 release. because to the religious overtones, some American radio stations banned it.